Hi, if you or your children are suffering because of your relationship with your ex-partner, because it's stressed or strained, or maybe they're just not a nice person, this show is for you. Welcome to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. Enjoy another episode now.
Early January is what a lot of attorneys refer to as divorce season.
Really?
Yeah. So this is a place where people are starting to come out of the holidays. They hunkered down to get through that with the family, and now there's some opening and they're ready to pull the trigger. And this particular episode fits perfect with that timing.
Yeah. This one's called As Went the Marriage, So Goes the Divorce, Waking Up and Evolving, right? And I've heard you say this phrase, and I think it's genius. As went the marriage, so goes the divorce. I didn't realize, I never heard that before. I didn't hear that January was divorce season, but I guess it kind of makes sense because at the same time as all of us want to like make a New Year's resolution to lose some weight, in some sense, people are like, okay, why start a divorce during Christmas or New Year's? But my New Year's resolution is to get rid of this dead weight of this horrible spouse or whatever it is, right? This partner of mine.
Right.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So this, as went the marriage, so goes the divorce is such a like awesome statement. How many words is that? It's like 8 words, right? So that sums up what people should expect and how you talk about getting in front of things, which I didn't do, right? And we don't want that. You don't want to get like buried and try to dig your way out. You want to get in front of this. But really the message here, and you can say it better than I can, but if your partner was a pill and unreasonable and vindictive and controlling and manipulative while you were married, you kind of want to expect that they're going to hire an attorney to help them do that better. And the heat's going to be kind of turned up during the divorce, right?
Right. We're going to, at the very least, we're going to get the same thing that we had. It's not going to be typically better. And once we've made that movement, remember, so much of what we're dealing with in this has to do with attachment styles and attachment theories. And, when we're in the high conflict arena, we have much higher propensity toward people with distortions in their personalities. So they're looking at the world through a distortion in their lens. So when we say that we want a divorce, that is rejecting them, that is leaving them, that is not taking care of them anymore. And those distortions come up into a higher level, and they start to act out more. So we can expect that as we ping those attachment styles, that they are going to give us more of what we've already seen. And I want to keep this idea of negative intimacy in the conversation because this is so much about what has been taking place in the relationship. When we've got abusive relationships, we've got this codependent thing that's going on where everybody is hanging on because of, to a great degree, their history and their attachment styles. So as we start to break that pattern, it's going to want to try to stay together, and we have to be in relationship with that. We don't get to say, I'm out of here, and expect that the other person is not going to feel abandoned or rejected or get angry and start to fight around this. So to be in that frame of mind from day one is a huge advantage.
Right.
And then to understand that the dynamic that we were in is changing. So if I was a stay-at-home parent, that's going to have to change. And that if I was the working parent, I'm going to have to be available more. And if both parents aren't on that frequency, there's going to be a battle around, well, you have to take care of me. Or that, take care of yourself. I've been taking care of you all of this time. And those dynamics start to set up. We talked about that in an earlier episode where we were talking about the divorce process.
Yeah.
And this is about being in tune with the dynamics of the relationship. When we're talking about high conflict divorces and custody battles, there's typically been a power imbalance in the relationship. Somebody was a bully, or there was abusive, or somebody was really passive and enabling. And those dynamics don't change overnight. They are something that we've got to step back and do healing with. We've got to get into, working. Anybody going through any of this stuff that isn't working with a good therapist is really doing themselves a disservice, because this is that place where you get to open up and see the dynamic better and see what your role in it was and see your history playing out in this ongoing battle.
Yeah.
And to be able to start to pull that stuff apart is the place where we can change that dynamic in the divorce process. So this is about waking up to the rat tangle that we've been in, and coming into evolving who we are and how we are in the world, how we do relationships, how we do parenting, and really start to change that dynamic. Because in these abusive situations, we have to remember that the kids probably weren't getting their needs really fully met. And because one parent was autocratic and one parent may have been permissive, and there was, oh, you can't do that, no, you won't do that. And trying to again, week after week after week, I come into, you guys learning how to be better parents and showing up in the way that establishes the boundaries within this, that create the safety and the place for everybody to start to shift into a new orientation in their life.
Yeah. Not easy stuff, huh?
No, it's got to be very intentional. And, this idea of waking up is difficult, because it means we have to really address those places where we have been asleep and where we haven't been in a place taking care of the relationships that are important here.
So as far as went the marriage, so goes the divorce, if you had a very controlling ex, right, you would expect that they're going to use the attorney, use the courts, submit a lot of paperwork. It's very controlling, telling you what you can do and can't do and trying to determine what happens in your home. If you had a very abusive ex, there's probably going to be a lot of inflammatory language, things like that, right? They're really just hiring a professional to help them be. I like the way you said it. It's not going to be better than it was. It's not going to be less than it was. It's going to be that and some, because they're paying somebody to help them, and they're getting this. I've seen submissions from the opposing party that were 300 to 400 pages long. Right?
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy. This is a medium for them to finally be a lot more of what they already are than what you've seen, because they've been limited at this point to just everyday fights, verbal. I mean, nobody really has a marital spat where they send each other 300 documents of complaints about each other. They just fight out loud, right? Now you have a month or two to prepare for something, and the person takes time every single day to be whoever they are and fight the way they fight. And it's not going to be better than it was. It's going to be, well, you may even want to say, as went the marriage, so goes the divorce, but worse and more exaggerated.
Yeah, you could go there. And, this place where the courtroom and the process of doing this through the legal process is for everybody in the world to see. And this is kind of like a broadcast of, I want you to see just how horrible this person was, because it's on display for anybody that wants to go in and take a look at. And for the attorneys, we can expect, this is a place where I kind of shook my head and couldn't get my head around this for a while when I went through my first divorce. It's like that person, the other parent, the other party, is going to get an attorney that matches them. And you guys can count on that. So if they were nasty, they're going to get a nasty attorney. They're going to go down these places where they are going to find a negative advocate that will hold their banner and wave it as high and as loud as they can possibly do it. And that's the place where these attorneys, really get hooked in or hook their clients in. And, this is a long payday. They're getting paid for keeping the natural state of this person at high excitation. So they're feeding off of the energy of this person that is just going off on every possible corner that they can go off on. And the attorney is sitting there going, yeah, let's go, let's get it. And it becomes a personal vendetta between the attorney and the opposing client. I see so often the the attorney carry the distortion of their client to a place where they are actually angry at the other party.
Yeah.
And they're not attached to solving the problem. They're attached to the bullying and the abusive behavior that this parent has been displaying all along. And when we look at that bullying and abusive behavior, we oftentimes almost always find a victim standpoint in there. I have to be this way because I was, this person is so horrible. And, now we've got a negative advocate, right?
Yeah. Yep. And you mentioned something about some study that said 1 out of 5 or whatever people walking the earth had one of these cluster B personality disorders. And if you look in the professions of attorneys and judges, the chances are it may even be higher. So there's a pretty good chance if your ex has a personality disorder and they go and they find the attorney that they quote mesh with, you've got 2 of these now against you, one of them with a lot of experience.
Right.
And it's not gonna be fun. There's help now.
But what we can do, and again, we're going back into the early stages of these episodes and these conversations. If we've got this knowledge and we know how to disengage from that process, and we're having that conversation with our own attorney about disengaging from it and just minimizing our contact, minimizing our responses, and being really strategic in how we put those pieces together, then we're not spending a boatload of money that we don't need to be spending. We're not throwing energy at energy. We're solving the problem. Yeah. And that's that place where if we're out in front of this, we've already started to keep logs about what's been taking place. We've already gone in and polled before we ever started the process because we know maybe what's going to be happening here. We've gathered all of the paperwork that we need. We've gone down and we've copied our hard drives. We've got all of this material and we've stashed it. So we're not playing catch up, right? Because this is not going to be an easy piece because it's never been an easy piece. So I'm going to do for myself what I've never done for myself before, and that's to take care of myself, to get out in front of this and be able to not engage, right?
Yep. And you want people to start that as soon as possible. So somebody who's listening to this podcast who hasn't even initiated the separation or the divorce is probably in the greatest advantage because from day one, they can be recording everything, not engaging, using Our Family Wizard, saying this is the only way I'm willing to communicate, right?
Right out the chute. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm jealous of somebody that has that opportunity to be frank. And that's not the norm. Most people are probably deep in the weeds going, what the hell happened? How do I get out of this? Right?
Well, almost everybody's starting from that standpoint, right? And what I would say to the people that are listening to this podcast is you guys know somebody that's just getting started in this. Yeah. Have them come in and listen to this piece. And it's also interesting to me because I've had people come in the early stages of their process, and we'll be talking about this very subject. And they will tell me how everything went in the marriage and what's taking place as they're starting to go their separate ways and how the other parent is acting out. And I'll have this very conversation with them, and they'll just ignore it. They'll go, no, I can work this out. No, if I do that, they're just going to get angrier. Or no, I'm going to find another way. That doesn't seem reasonable to me. And 6 months down the road, they're sitting in my office again going, oh, man, I wish I'd have listened to you because everything that you said was going to happen happened and worse.
Yeah.
So, again, this particular episode is for the people that are in the early stages or the people that are down that road 6 months that are trying to reorient to, oh my God, this is the same crap that I was putting up with in my marriage and my relationship with this person. How do I stop it? And the answer to that is to come into relationship with, this is exactly what it is. And now we can start to solve the problem because, with bullying, abusive relationships, and those components, we can solve through disengagement.
Yeah.
We can solve that by pulling that apart and not going into that patterning. The problem with that is that patterning is, we've talked about so many times, it's in laced within their nervous system. So they have to do the work and be willing to put up with the energy that it takes to break them.
Right. And let me talk for a moment about referring the show. And you may or may not know this, Brooke, but I mean, there's all these different podcast players. So if you have an iPhone, there's what's called the podcast app. And if you're on Android, there's Sketcher and different things. But there's one called Castbox, Castbox, which is awesome for people that hear a part of the show and want to send it to a friend that's going through something similar, because Castbox works on iTunes, on iPhone and Android, and it has a feature in it where you can not only refer episodes through text, but you can refer episodes and a certain minute and time. Like you can actually send a text to somebody that says, hey, listen to this. And it starts, minute 14 at 58 seconds or something we're talking about. So you can send specific pieces of a show to a friend of yours that's going through a hard divorce or has a nasty ex or whatever it is. So Castbox is an app you can get on Android or iTunes or iPhone. And I just want people to know that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. So there's some roles and dynamics in the relationship. They're going to continue into this divorce. And I'm very aware of this and the divorces in my life. What did you want to say about working or staying at home? Like, what do you have in that area, or the power imbalances?
Well, that's just a note there about this was the dynamic. This is what was going on in the marriage. And there's going to be an expectation on some level that continues. Yeah. And it's not a valid expectation. That whole piece is going to shift. And to know that somebody is going to fight that shift is really good knowledge. It's not that we have to pound that in, but we can put something in place that says, okay, that's going to be a huge sticking point. And rather than spend $50,000 in this fight with an attorney in court, what's my place where I can make this be a gradual piece that person can swallow a little bit better. And the same thing comes back to the parenting styles. There's a different parenting style that's taking place between you and the other parent almost all of the time when we're looking at high conflict custody battles. And to identify that and go, well, I can change here, but they're not going to. And for me to fight that change is keeping me in the fight that I was in the marriage. So again, to really identify it and to make the shift into not fighting that. If there wasn't transparency in the marriage, if there was spending problems in the marriage, that isn't going to change because we're getting a divorce. If they were hiding stuff then, they're going to hide stuff now. And know that that's taking place, and don't be shocked. Be prepared. Because again, as you're setting this up, there's places that you can get to in a marriage where there isn't transparency that you can't get to once the divorce process starts. You're locked out of them, and it becomes much more expensive to get and to find. And, the spending stuff as well is like, am I going to leave my credit cards open? Am I going to leave the bank account open? Or am I going to do something else because there's a problem here because of an integrity issue on the other side that has never been addressed? So again, getting our head around that one and going down that line. So again, just really taking this moment to open that up and to be in the reality. And then look at what changes need to be made. Where do I need to make the changes in what I'm doing? And what changes are we expecting the other person, or what we would like the other person to do? And the realization in this is that changes, there's reasons for changes to occur. And the reasons that changes happen is because somebody wants it to happen. Somebody wants to take the effort to do something different, to get healthier, to make that shift. And if that person, that other parent, comes into that, awesome. But back to, what are you doing? How do you make that shift without the expectation that they're going to do it? Because changes don't occur, specifically if somebody doesn't want it to occur. If there isn't a realization that there's a problem, if there isn't the self-reflection to be able to see that there's something that I need to do better here for my children, for the other parent, for the ethical solution to this dissolution of the relationship, and to to understand and not fight them to do something that they don't want to do. Because again, we're back to the original sentence. As with the marriage, so goes the divorce. So this waking up and evolving is this part of the conversation that we're talking about. And the last thing that I really want to add in here is to believe what they are showing you. You know, if they are showing you that, you know, they're cooperative and they're willing to do changes and to do that, go down that road. Work that with good, solid boundaries, good, healthy boundaries, but relational boundaries. And if they are being that bullying, abusive person that they were before, that they were manipulative and playing all of these other things, believe that and know that that is what they're doing. And if they do start to make a change, don't jump in with both feet. Kind of push the river in that direction, but don't go all in. There was a phrase from a Sean Connery movie. The movie was Entrapment with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
And they're in this place where they're a couple of thieves and they're trying to find trust with one another. And Sean Connery's character says to Catherine Zeta-Jones, first we try, then we trust. So if you're showing me something that I haven't seen before, I'm going to go slow here, but I'm going to give it a little space. And then if it falls apart, it's like, okay, we're back to the other side of this, right?
Yeah. Interesting. I like that. You don't have a Sean Connery accent, do you?
No, I don't. And
first we try. Exactly. Awesome. So what we want people to know from this short episode, we want people to know that you can have a little clairvoyance here. You can know what to expect and what's coming down the pike, and you don't have to be surprised. Whatever they were doing, whatever tricks they were pulling, whatever personality disorders or types they had or parenting styles in, you know, if they were bullying, abusive, passive, enabling, all that during the marriage, you want to expect that and more, because they now have professional help, and they probably are going to pick somebody that they jive with that's kind of similar to them, who may even get emotionally involved and have a similar sort of abusive vendetta against you or a controlling, bullying way about them. But if you and your attorney know that ahead of time, so we need people to communicate to their attorneys, here's who my ex was during the relationship, so the attorney knows what to expect and how to prepare.
Right. And this is who I was during the relationship. And this is where I'm working on changing. Right.
Now, do they just need an attorney, or can your coaching be helpful as an added benefit? Like, can they use an attorney and you to coach them?
Absolutely. And, you know, I really encourage people to have an attorney when they're going through a high conflict piece. I mean, this is predictable. And, you know, you've seen in the earlier episodes where we've had the indicators of high conflict. You know, if you know you're going to be in this, you know, take some time, do some research, find an attorney that matches you, that has your best interest at heart, that is clean in how they do it. And then get somebody like me to help you in the background, because that's going to save you money with your attorneys overall. It will be an austerity move that will pay dividends.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Brooke. Short and sweet, very helpful. Maybe one of our shorter episodes, but it's a very poignant point that we're making, just to know that you should expect more of what you've been already receiving, and don't be surprised by that. This advice would have helped me tremendously. As simple as it sounds, I was sort of blindsided. I just didn't know what was coming, but now looking back, it should have been obvious, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Episode 17, the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. We will be back faithfully every week on Fridays. We will see you guys next week. Hang in there, love on those kids, and create a healthy environment. No matter how much time you have with them, it's the quality of the time, not the quantity. Agreed, Brooke?
Absolutely. Guys, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week.
Brooke, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or recorded anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle. Great. And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working, and to see what these concepts are about, and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brooke has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely, I do. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand, and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is brooke@highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Charlie.